Welcome and good morning. Welcome to the Monday Motivation Spotlight. Another Monday morning, another Monday Motivation Spotlight. Today, as in all the week that we've had, is another emotional day for Am Yisrael. The last couple of days, and it's not ended yet. We're going to be having another emotional couple of days, an ongoing period. And that is why we're here, to inspire you, to motivate you, and of course also to give exposure to amazing Israelis who are making a difference, whether they're in business, nonprofit, or an individual. So for me, this is also an emotional week for a couple of reasons. Firstly, today is International Holocaust Day. And I was interested to see, because Israel recognizes Holocaust Day on a different day than the world. So all you need to do is ask ChatGPT why, and it'll give you the answer. I'm not going to go to it, but I was curious to find out why when I heard that today was that. In addition, today is actually the 26-year site of my dear mother, Pnina Bat Shlomo Vedvora. So that is something that's on my mind all the time, and I'd like to dedicate today's session in her memory. And this is something that accompanies me on a day-to-day basis, as she passed away at a very young age, actually younger than what I am now, and which is partially and has determined my day-to-day live your dream now, which is why I'm living where I am and which is why I'm doing what I am. And on a positive note, tomorrow I celebrate 35 years in this wonderful country since making Aliyah. So from that point of view, it's just amazing, and I can't believe that it's 35 years. So with all that being said, I'm going to be introducing our amazing speaker. And of course, I always thank our dear sponsor, Nardis Advisors. Thank you to Nardis. So I'm going to be introducing and spotlighting you, Judy. Good morning. Please, I'm introducing and happy to introduce Judy Bogen, our guest for today, who is making a difference. Judy founded the nonprofit called Place to Heal, which is making a huge difference and has made a huge difference in the hospital systems. She saw a gap, she saw a need, and instead of waiting around for it to happen, she decided to take it on, and I'm sure it hasn't been easy. Judy, you're going to tell your story about what brought you to found it and everything. I did mention it in your bio, if any of you saw on the website, but I'd like you to tell your story. We're delighted to have you here, and today's a very appropriate day to have you as our guest. So thank you for joining us. Shoot, take it away. Take us back all those years, what you were going through and why you started it, and of course, the impact that you're making.
Okay, thank you very much for inviting me. And good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming and joining and listening. My story relating to Place to Heal actually began when I was living in the States, and I was diagnosed with breast cancer. And I was treated there, and I had all my surgeries there. And 2 years later, we came home. We were on Shlichut. We came home. We came to Modi'in. And we found that during my checkups at the hospital, I go to a fantastic hospital in Jerusalem. I go to Hadassah. And I found that the environment there for people coming in for treatment and so forth was very, very unacceptable to me. It was dark, it was dingy, it wasn't comfortable. And although I hadn't been treated in the most beautiful center in the US, it was like a 5-star hotel compared to what people were seeing here. So I decided that I wanted to set up an organization where people would be able to go to hospitals, receive their cancer treatment in a comfortable space with comfortable recliners, calming colors, proper lighting, proper atmosphere, so that they could really just focus on looking after themselves in those few hours that they are in the hospital receiving their chemotherapy. So when I traveled a little bit to discover the whole idea, because we all know that it's obvious that we want to be in an environment that's beautiful and comfortable and lends itself to being a positive influence on us. But it was actually officially discovered by somebody in the States many years ago. And he discovered what he called evidence-based healthcare design. And it began when he was 13 and he was in the hospital, and he believes that his recovery took longer because he was in a place that was badly lit and dark and dingy and no natural light and so on. So he began an entire university. Just one moment, I'm sorry. He set up the Center for Healthcare Design in Los Angeles, and it's actually something that you can study and understand. And I put it also into my home. My home is painted all different colors, and I've got deep colors, light colors, but the colors are very important to my mood and very important to how I feel on a day-to-day basis. So the first hospital that we did was the Wolfson Medical Center in Holon, and we took part of their oncology outpatient ward. Sorry. And we took a room and a waiting room, and we transformed it with the use of 2 interior designers who volunteered their time. And it's absolutely beautiful. And then after that, we wanted to continue to the rest of the unit, but then COVID set in, and it was virtually impossible for us to get into the hospital. So we opened the room and the waiting room in COVID in a very small ceremony where everyone was separated with masks, and we couldn't serve food, and everyone went home with a gift bag, and it was very moving. It was also, it would have been lovely to open it up. We had loads of viewers online, and it was fantastic. At that point, we didn't go back to Wolfson. We then moved on to the Safra Children's Hospital at Tel HaShomer, where we created an MRI simulation room for the children. The children have a lot of trouble with their MRIs and CTs. They're very frightened of the noise and the machines, and their parents can't go in with them, so they have to be put under anesthesia to go in for these tests. So together with the educational staff at the hospital, we built a room with an old MRI machine, and we turned the room into a Luna Park, into like the whole thing was painted with hot air balloons and roller coasters and bright colors and flashing lights and music. And at the same time, the kids are taught through a computer program. They're talked through the test and get used to the noises, and it helps limit the amount of children that we have to actually put under anesthesia for these procedures. And then the final room I did, which I opened just a couple of months ago, is in Hadassah Hatzofim. We took the entire waiting space of the unit in Hadassah Hatzofim. It's hematology and oncology together. And we took the space and we took a chunk off the reception and we closed it into a room where people come in the morning and give blood, because you have to have a certain blood count before you can have chemotherapy. So we took a room a nice calming room where they've got new recliners where they can sit and they can give blood and they can wait for the result, because sometimes in hospitals it can take hours before you get your result, and then you have to wait for the pharmacy to make up the treatment. So in America, it was all done actually in the room and it was all ready. So it took like 10 minutes. But so we've created a space there where they can actually sit comfortably and they don't actually have to go into their treatment room before they actually have to start their treatment. At the other half of that space, we turned into a comfortable waiting room. We put in new chairs and painted the walls, and we built a beautiful reception desk for the receptionist. Also now it has a glass window because it's just more hygienic. And we did it with some marble, and so that she's got a great place to sit, because these things don't only affect the staff, the patients, they affect the staff that work in the hospitals as well. I remember in Wolfson, the nurses used to argue over who was going to be in charge of the room that we had done versus who was going to be in charge of the room that we hadn't done. Because for them, it was a pleasant working environment, which is also very, very important. So we opened Hearts of Film this year, but we opened Safra on the 6th of September 2023. And, well, you know, just a month later, you know, all our worlds turned upside down. And for a few weeks, we just collected money for evacuees. We did it through the Amuta, and we managed to raise enough money for all the evacuees in Ma'ale HaMisham. We managed to buy them clothes and toiletries and everything that they needed. And then Wolfson contacted me and asked me if I would do another oncology room. And I said, I don't think that that anyone's going to give money to cancer right now, because at the end of the day, they get great care, they get their meds, they don't pay. And so I had to sort of prioritize where I was going to go. So we decided that we would pivot into something war-related. And I had actually volunteered at Wolfson at the beginning of the war in the surgical ward. And it was, I have a very great fondness for Wolfson. I think it's a great hospital. And the people that work there are very warm. It's like a family. And actually their tagline is Wolfson's a mishpacha. And it really is. It's just a lovely hospital with great leadership. And they asked me if I would come back and do more oncology. And I said I couldn't. But then after I volunteered in the surgical ward, the doctors asked if I would consider creating a space for the doctors to be able to meet with therapists in groups or individually, or do exercise classes or something that would help them process the trauma they have been going through since the 7th of October. And I found the whole concept very interesting, because I'm a big news watcher, but I never see anything, maybe 1 or 2 articles here and there about healthcare professionals and how this is affecting them. And, on the 7th, like so many other hospitals, the people worked upwards from Soroka, and Wolfson took a lot of people. And they also took hostages last year in the release. And so the doctors have seen a lot and have spent a lot of time on Miluim. So I felt that they also need to be able to recharge their batteries. And I hadn't heard of it being done before. And I thought that it would be a really good idea. So I met up with the head trauma surgeon, who is actually the first female trauma surgeon in Israel. And she works at Wolfson. So we met with her, we sat with her, and we talked to surgeons about how we can do this for the staff to keep them on top of things and to keep them motivated. Because when I first started talking to them about this project last year, they were already they all had beds in their offices and they were already exhausted, and we were only a few months in. So I decided that I wanted to focus on the staff. I wanted them to be able to be given the space, because they are, in my opinion, they're on the front line as much as anyone else in the war, and also not in the war, because they're very overworked regardless. And they need to sit together. They need to talk about collective trauma. And they have to be allowed moments of disengagement where they can actually just be them and talk to people about what they've actually seen and how it's affected them, because it's very important that I believe that our healthcare standards are very high here. And but in order for them to really do what they have to do, and to do it well, they need some kind of reprieve from what they do, and they need to focus on themselves. So the idea was to create a space which we have. I know Avital's here. I know we have pictures of the layout of how the space should look. there is, as Avital's exactly writing, there's a mental health crisis in Israel today, and there aren't enough facilities and people to address it. And I spoke to someone called Sarah Friedman, who is the head of psychology in Bar Ilan. She's British and she's absolutely amazing. And we talked a lot about this and how important it is to doctors and nurses, and, you know, for them to be able to come out, take a breath and get back to work. Some people have expressed concern about how we would fit this into their days, which actually has affected some people who wanted to donate. They weren't really sure how the hospital, if they're so busy, would actually, you know, manage to fit in these programs. But when I spoke to the head surgeon, she said that people don't need to worry because they'll be using people internally and externally, because the internal people also need the use of the room, and will be creating a slot in the day, not every day for everybody, but they will be creating slots in the day where the staff can go in and they can and they can do whatever they need to do, whether it's a yoga class, a Pilates class. The room will be furnished with soft furniture, soft lighting, and from it will have a little bit of sports equipment, maybe an elliptical, maybe a treadmill, but the idea is that the exercise that takes place there will be calming and will be able to stretch muscles and and use your breathing to overcome your stress. And in addition to that, they can be in there together. And if I'm not mistaken, they are in there together without their cell phones. And there will be a television screen, but it's still up for discussion what that will be used for. There'll be no news shown. And they will have time in there to either talk one-on-one with professionals, or to talk in groups with professionals, or to talk in groups together. But they, you know, they have a room with lockers and an old table and chairs. But I personally, when I saw that, didn't think that was conducive to really opening up about anything. So we wanted to make the space comfortable, and it just brings us back to the first, you know, why we set up in the first place, and that's to allow people a space where they can just take a breath and sit down in a comfortable chair. And it seems very, very basic, and it seems like with all the other things that organizations are doing at the moment, it seems like, but really it's very basic. It's almost so obvious that people don't think about it. And, you know, when I come home every day, I'm so happy to come home and sit on my couch, and it makes a difference. It always makes a difference. And even though it really is the simple things that bring about the change for people. And it also shows that we and the heads of the hospitals care about the doctors and nurses, because I think they get a bit of a raw deal. And I have to say, unfortunately, I have spent many hours in hospitals for myself or for my parents, and I think that the staff are, for the most part, outstanding. And I think that they deserve this. And I think that whether or not there was a war, I think maybe the war just pushed me into doing it. But I think that they're really magia lem. I think that they really deserve it. They are working so hard and they are so dedicated. And I think that it's very important that they're given it, that they're shown also. And I think it's great that the Hanhala of the hospital think it's important enough to like contact an organization and say, we need to do this for our staff. And I think that was enough for me. But thanks to Lesley, now I have a little bit more exposure, which is fantastic. And we're looking for ways, you know, how can our work help relieve people who are struggling? Because I think on some level we're all struggling, but some of us have jobs where we can just get on with our jobs and take a break when we need to. But I don't think that's, you know, that doesn't apply to them. They have to be on all the time that they're in the hospital. And at the moment, they actually have to be on way more hours than they would normally be. And so I think that that's my, that's my, at the moment, my passion has always been to help people in whatever way I can. I use design because I saw where I was treated in the States, and I compared it to the spaces here, and I wanted, cancer was obviously my first calling, and maybe one day when all this is over, I will go back to doing that. But right now, I feel that my effort for the war can be helping healthcare professionals so that they can help their patients, and healing the helpers, helping the helpers. That's basically the underlying idea of what we do. And that's
Right. No, Judy, that is incredible. Firstly, it's what you say, that it's a basic need, but yet no one else thought to do it. And you actually got up, and having experienced it from the inside as a hospital patient, very often we talk about customer experience in business and what people are experiencing. And people that are not going through the same thing don't always see it. So from the side of the patient, you were experiencing it, and you saw that there was a gap and a need to be filled. And also from the point of the actual staff too, it's not only about the patients. As we know, when you have motivated employees, then they do a better job for their client, i.e. the patient. So if the staff who are really going through a rough time, I mean, always, but since October 7th especially, if they're feeling more positive, if the environment is positive in terms of colors. And as I put in the chat, we have a brand photographer here. So sure, Ariel's the first one I'm sure that will agree with me in terms of the colors and everything. In fact, we spoke about it last week. So all these things make a big difference. And there's certain things that you cannot measure. The spill-off effect, that somebody comes in, has a more positive experience, whether it's a patient or the employee, and their reaction and the way they talk to others, and the spill-off effect, like passing forward. So you're doing an incredible job. Thank you so much. Moving forward, your projects for the future, what besides what you've discussed, what are your main aims? And I guess you also adapt yourself to the need.
So the first project is this room in Walson, it's been a little bit, our goals and objectives are to raise, I mean, I would love to see one of these in every hospital in Israel, but I'm just one person. I work on my own in the Amuta, and so that's not, going to happen overnight. Currently, we're working on the room in Walson, which we're still fundraising for. We don't have enough money for that yet. And then we are moving on to hopefully a room in Shaare Zedek. The head of Shaare Zedek contacted me, and which was unbelievably amazing, because he is amazing and unfortunately very, very busy at the moment. And he approached me, and we went to meet, and we looked at the space that he would like to turn into a space for their staff, and they have 6,000 employees. So that would have to be a very, very, well-organized, well-oiled system to make sure that everybody benefited. It's a big open balcony that he wants to close and turn into a room. So that's a much bigger project. And I would love to do that too. And then another hospital, Soroka, who I also very, very much like. The people that work there are absolutely unbelievable. And so together with an organization called Gdolim Me'achayim, which helps families with children who have cancer, they would like us to make a family room in the inpatient pediatric oncology ward, because there has to be a parent with them at all times, and there's nowhere comfortable for them to sit, to work. So we're trying to take a small space and turn that into a family room where they can work on computers, or they can sleep, they can talk to each other. Again, Soroka faces population. There's a lot of different cultures that go to all of our hospitals, but Soroka particularly. And some of the children come in to Soroka way too far gone with their cancer, because the parents just didn't know what they needed to be doing. So I also have a very special place in my heart for Soroka. So those are three things that will all take a lot of work and a lot of fundraising. And we're hoping, we did a very successful event 2 years ago in Modi'in, and we're hoping to do another one this spring. And anyone who wants to talk to me, anyone who knows someone who might want to talk to me, who might want to help, then, you know, all my details, Lesley has all my details. And that's where I am. And I think sort of 3 projects in my mind, I think are, you know, that's quite a lot to be getting along with at the moment.
Right, absolutely, because they're all large undertakings. Right.
Yeah.
So firstly, Judy, thank you so much, number one, for everything you're doing. You just really are making such a big difference, and something that can not always be measurable, but it's just the expandable effect and the domino effect is unbelievable. So if anyone would like to contribute, give a donation, volunteer in any capacity, so contact Judy, Place to Heal, as you can see on the screen with the 2 in the middle. Check out their website, volunteer. We also have 2 journalists and a photograph journalist here, Toby and Sharon. So you may want to pick up and develop a story or something and speak to Judy, something along the lines of that. Judy, you can also reach out to them. So thank you again.
Absolutely.
Once again, exposing Israelis that are making a big difference in this wonderful world, and sometimes not so wonderful world, but yes, it depends how we look at it, and the half cup full or half cup empty. And as I mentioned earlier, I'm now 35 years in this wonderful country, together with all our challenges, and surveys have showed that we are amongst the happiest people in the world, despite a war and despite everything going on. So thank you again for joining us for this Monday Motivation Spotlight. Thank you again to Judy Bogen of Place to Heal.
Thank you.
Thank you, whether you're joining us live or whether you're listening to the recording. And if you're not listening to the recording, if you're joining live, or if you are, so you can have a look on my YouTube and my Spotify channels. Just type in Monday Motivation Spotlight. Over the last year and a bit since the war started, after October 7th, 2023, we have been running this program, this podcast. So you're welcome to check out and view our other awesome speakers, everyone making a difference in their own way. Please subscribe, please like and comment. And I'm Yisrael Chai, wishing our week and our people, our nation, and of course, wanting and praying for the hostages, release of all our hostages. Thank you again for joining us. I'm Lesley Kaplan. Thank you again to Nardis Advisors. And I look forward to seeing you next week with another inspiring guest on the Monday Motivation Podcast. Have a great day.